The last time we linked up on the Situationship Circle,
your kids gonna need therapy. Like, point blank.
Because this is something that I'm gonna have to learn moving forward as well, and just everybody. At what point do you become vulnerable with your child? Like,
so when I came home with that hickey on my neck, I tried to play it off. Like, oh no, it's not that. And she was like, let me see. And my mom burst into tears.
That she was trying to grow with me. She was like, I understand where you're coming from. I see we're not understanding each other, but just know, son, I'm trying to grow with you and just help me. Like.
Hi guys.
Hello everyone.
And we have another episode of the Situationship Circle.
Yes.
I'm so excited because this week we're bringing back a really, really popular topic.
Yes.
And that is the black male identity. We did a live on this, and you guys, the viewers, wanted to talk more to us about it, or wanted us to talk more to you guys about it. So without further ado.
So they said they wanted to know. So for those of y'all who weren't there, it was an amazing event, and we talked about some things, but we going straight for the gusto today. Y'all ready?
Yeah.
Y'all ready? Y'all gonna ride the table with us?
Yes.
So, it was a big comment where Kyle said that we needed to conform. And somebody in the comment section said, go ahead and ask Kyle.
He picked up the shirt.
So they said, Kyle, what do you mean we got to reform? Conform. I'm sorry. Oh, because that is some bullshit. The people rested. The people already slow. So we just pick it up where we left off. But we don't remember my minute. But definitely, we had that conversation and we wanted to lead in on Somewhere Strong. So let's go there. Let's talk about that, Kyle.
so for the viewer that saw the live, the word that I used was not conform.
It was assimilate.
And it wasn't a synonymous word to conform, it was assimilate.
Okay.
Because I truly believe that we have to learn the game of checkers, and we have to stop. What I mean by, like, the system that we're in is chess. We're playing a chess game. But if we're continuing to play checkers, then we never learn the pieces of the chess game that we're in. We have to first learn a system before we can truly reform a system. I never said conform. Before we can reform, before we can have radical change, before we can have innovative techniques and all these different things, we have to first learn the system by way of assimilating to the system. Not giving up who you are as a person, not doing any of these things that don't make you less black or less of a person. But I do believe in a corporate culture, in the American culture, as a part of our civic duty, and if you get hired, the paperwork that you sign on, you have to assimilate to that culture, to that company. And if you disagree, that's why entrepreneurship is here. If you disagree, that's why sole proprietors are here. But as a person that learned from corporate America so that I can build a multi-million-dollar business, I was able to assimilate to the culture so that I can now reform the educational system.
Yes.
That's it.
Drop some mic.
I think what rubbed a lot of people the wrong way is when you said that we need to quote unquote code switch in the boardroom and then get home and turn back to our regular selves. So that was, I believe that was more of the part that rubbed people the wrong way. But like you said, if you're not necessarily comfortable with that, you can always make your own lane, do your own entrepreneurship, and it's not like that in every single situation. You know what I mean? But I think that's really what rubbed people the wrong way.
And even to the point of code switching, I believe that being in corporate America for the time that I was in, I'm not the same person when I'm in a board meeting that I am around my son. I'm not the same person that I am around my father and mother or my brothers or sister or even friends that I went to college with that I am in a board meeting now with my employees. So I think there has to be some, whatever word you want to use, code switching, turning the switch on, turning the switch off, transitioning, adapting, being a chameleon. You have to be able to change who you are to be able to close the deal. You have to be, I'm sure she's not the same person when she's out in Charlotte versus when she's in Silicon Valley closing tech deals. It's not the same person. You have to maybe wear a different fit. You could wear sweatpants and joggers at home, but if you're in that board meeting, it's time to now be a part of the corporate culture that you're in or the American culture that we're now a part of, whether you like it or not.
Okay, so at what?
I just think what is confusing for people that's only hearing a smidget of what you're saying is that, okay, so can I not be myself when I'm going into these corporate meetings? because I'm invited into these corporate meetings because of who I am and what I stand for and what's inside of my mind, not necessarily the tone of my voice. So with that being said, I think it's damaging if you allow code switching. I understand what you're saying, but I'm sure it's so
So just to be clear, companies don't hire you because of who you are. They hire you because of what you can do. It's term. No. Listen. In the business that I'm in the lane that I'm in, I could care less about who you pray to. I could care less about who you're sleeping with or what's your preference of food. If you can get this job done and make me this increase in financials or whatever the case may be, if you can get this job done and open this door for me, if you can get us expanding our platform, that's all I care about. At the end of the day, as a part of this American culture, the capitalist society, I don't care if you're blue, green, orange. If you can do a job for me and be able to expand our business or get us to the place of success where we need to go, that's why you're here. We're here to do a job. It's not about who you are.
Oh
my God. I understand where you're coming from that. I understand where you're coming from that. And I agree to a certain extent that, yes, companies hire you because of what you can do. Because no one's going to hire someone that can't perform a job or perform a task that's going to elevate that company to the next level. But the question is, when you hire a person for whatever job, you're at the end of the day, you're hiring that person in their entirety. Now, at what point in time is it okay or not okay for that person to be who that person is while they're working for you? Because it comes to a point where if you're not allowing your employees or allowing people to express themselves in a way that's still, respectful, I guess, to the corporate culture, like, you're not going to have good employees. You're not going to have that type of morale. So that's why I want to challenge you on, like, at what point in time does that line, like, kind of, like, blur?
Yeah,
I mean, we going I know you got something over there. So I feel like, to answer your question, when does it come a point where those lines are blurred in a sense? I feel like me specifically, I'm different. I want to get to know the person. That's part of the interview process. But as a part of the whole system that we're trying to revolutionize, that we're trying to change, they could care less. Seriously, me specifically, as the black man that I am, I like to get to know people. I want to empower my employees. I want to know about their families. I care about those things. But at the end of the day,
I had to throw a flag on the play. Kyle was a bit naive there. The idea that someone can walk into an interview and the interviewee the interviewer does not care what the interviewee looks like is very naive, particularly if you are a person of color. I think that when you walk into the room as a person of color, whether you are dressed up or dressed down, whether you look fantastic or whether you look ridiculous, the color of your skin is definitely going to affect what the interviewer thinks of you from the get-go, from the jump, from the door. So I don't know, for someone who is as smart as he is, I thought that was a little bit naive. It definitely needed a flag on the play.
Y'all see why this is like this? Yeah,
Let me just say that the idea and the social norm that a black male has to adjust to succeed in any marketing or any business is absolutely ignorant. The reality of it is, when it comes to telemarketing, when it comes to campaigning, the individual and what you bring to the table is what you can use to relate to the public. There is no person on this world, in this room, that can tell me, as me dressing the way I do, I don't have to go into a business meeting in a suit and tie to elate. I can dress up casually and show you something that you're not used to and still give you a professional sense of who I am and what I bring to the table. I don't need to wear a suit and tie, a white collar, to make myself relevant or to then make sure that it's known that I'm a part of a demographic. When it comes to society and what's going on right now, it is important to be a variety. You cannot be someone who is trying to adjust to somebody else. When it's a business perspective, it is who you can relate to, and it is the fact that you need to then not only branch off, but make sure that somebody is empowered to reach every demographic.
I'm not going to take the full 60 seconds, but I will say I am 100% for someone being who they are and being an individual. However, I do feel like there is a time and a place for everything. So I'm not gonna show up to a board meeting casual. Like that's just not, and I'm very eclectic. I'm very who I am. But there are certain rules for certain things. And do you think if you showed up to a board meeting casual that they're gonna take you seriously? They're gonna listen to anything that you say? I don't necessarily think so. And so though I feel like you can be yourself, you can be individualistic in a suit. Your suit, you can wear a crazy color suit or whatever. Well, maybe not, like a bright pink suit because they still might not take you serious. But you can still be an individual and you can still have your own thing about you that sets you apart and makes you different. But to the extent that they need to still take you seriously, I think that is the problem with us in corporate as a whole. Like we don't understand how to approach certain situations, and that's why it doesn't get very far for us a lot of the times, because we go in thinking like, I am who I am, I can be this way, and though you can, in certain instances, like you have to sometimes get your foot in the door first and then move the way you want to move, you know what I mean?
My thing was, when it comes to making sure that you are relatable, you can not go in casual, but you can go somewhere and have a certain style of you that represents professionalism in a way that you're not used to and can still relate to. I'm not saying I'm gonna go to an interview in jeans. My point is, the same way, if you wanna just do strictly suits, if I want to come into a business meeting with a abnormal or not a regular type of sense of style, that doesn't mean that you can't take me seriously. That means, hey, a business perspective, look at me differently. Just because I'm in a suit and tie does not mean I'm any less or more important or relatable or marketable to somebody who is in something that is business casual or a different representation of a black male.
Okay, prove yourself. Prove your worth. Prove what you can do and why you deserve that. Do not go into an establishment such as, let's say, AT&T, Bank of America, and think that you are going to change the culture of what they've created for over the course of time. You do not do that. That's considered disrespectful in the culture that they created. Do you want someone to come into your establishment, one of your coworkers, and you guys are supposed to wear all black and they just come in with all red on and see through this and that? No, you're gonna be like, you know what, hold on. Let me talk to you and tell you, you're gonna feel offended at that point. You're gonna feel offended, and my thing is this, there is a time and there is a place. Prove why you deserve that. Prove it. Show in your work how good you are. Create your own lane. That's what they're doing, the Virgils of, what's the guy who's now off of Off-White and now with Louis Vuitton. He went in there, he proved why you're gonna respect me. No other black man can come in, unfortunately, without proving himself into Louis Vuitton and say, hey, I'm gonna show you guys how I design and take my intellectual property and put it into your multi-trillion-dollar, line here, and I'm going to change something. So yes, there is a reason why Pantene is saying, hey, we need to adapt to the black culture. Oh my gosh, like there's money there. There's a reason why they're saying that. Of course, they're gonna want that ethnic person to come in there with that personality and create that line, but best to believe, or best, whatever.
You said
anyway,
it right.
I said it right. Okay, let's go back. Because don't think that I have to. Yes, I want to. I'm all for my people, and yes, I want to be able to build this legacy and this wealth so I can come back and change the South Side of Chicago. Best and believe I do. But I cannot go in there looking a certain way to offend them. I have to be somewhat respectful, earn my stripes, and best believe that when I come back, I'm going to change it.
Kyron, oh Kyron. Okay, so you need to understand the culture of the company that you're going to work for. And you don't have to lose your identity in looking professional. I think that's something where you will be able to express yourself in a different way. So, depending on what your position is, depending on if you're new to the company or if it's a board meeting, understand and set the tone for what you want. And work for, the ability to do whatever it is that you want. Make your mark wherever you are is my point of view. But overall, respect the culture of the company because someone built that. Someone built that on the sweat of their back. And, if you created something of your own, you would want your employees to do the same.
It's not, and I just want to say, and it's not only white people. There are even black people when you get to a certain point that are in certain positions that just because we have the same skin color, they are going to expect a greater standard from us.
Yes.
So there are just certain things that as a young, and I kind of teeter-totter on this subject because I am, like I said, all about being an individual, but I think the one thing that I don't agree with just as being a millennial is that we are enough. Yes, we are enough, but we have to have some level of substance to us that speaks for us as well. And I think a lot of us missed that point. And yeah, that's just all.
So I one second. I get as we tie in substance and culture and standards. Let's talk about the standards of a black man, a black male's identity. Let's talk about what those standards look like into the community. When you see a black man, what do you expect from a black man to define his identity?
I think first and foremost, I just want to be clear about where my stance was. I'm in total agreement with you. What I am disagreeing with is the fact that we have to change who we are as people and try to sound like someone else. We are educated. We can prove ourselves. We do have something to prove. We can offer something to the table, but I'd be fucking damn if I go in there trying to act like someone else. I'm gonna act like my polished, my best self. I'm not gonna speak how I just spoke, but I'm gonna be the best that I can be, who I am. I'm not looking to be approved in their eyes. I am there for a reason. I'm on a mission. I have tunnel vision, and I do want those endorsements, and I do want to seal those deals. But I think it's damaging to the black man to say, you need to sound like this, you need to walk like that. That's the old school shucking and jiving. That's the old school mentality. It breaks down the mental state. It's not necessarily saying that you are saying go shuck and jive, but I do think it's a very tightrope that you have to walk when you say, this is how you need to sound, this is how you need to act. But it needs to come from you and you that look like me. So it's not saying that's how you need to sound, that's how you need to act. It needs to be, I'm an example, I'm gonna show you what it needs to look like, and then when you go in these rooms, you're prepared, not necessarily go in those rooms and see how it's done.
Yeah.
You know, from that
perspective. So let's talk about what that looks like.
That's just
And I think that it is a fine line between code switching and assimilating to culture, assimilating to the culture of the organization. Is it code switching to come in wearing a suit and tie and speaking, properly or whatever, and whatever that means? Is that code switching? I don't think of that as code switching. No. I don't think that's code switching. I don't think code switching is phony either. I code switch.
Yeah, there's certain things I'm not gonna say in the
But that's not what I would consider code switching. Like, for example, I'll give you an example to me what is code switching. I might cause some trouble for myself. My husband's family, my husband's side of the family, particularly my mother-in-law, and okay, I know you're laughing, you're like, oh girl, maybe you shouldn't say that.
I know, Tracy, so this is gonna be really good.
I feel like I grew up middle class. My father was in the Air Force, so we traveled and whatever, and so my way of speaking wasn't necessarily the way of speaking of my husband's family. So they thought I was, they didn't necessarily think well of me. I think that they thought that I thought higher of myself than they did. So I felt like I had to not be who I was in order to be accepted by other black people. I also did that even when I came back to the States. Black people didn't like me because I didn't speak like them. White people didn't like me because I wasn't white. So I felt like everything that I had grown up to be, living in another country, in other countries, when I came back to the States, I wasn't good enough. Hell yes, I code switched, as I was a teenager who didn't know any better, and I just wanted to be accepted. So I learned how to code switch young, and I do it a lot less now, but it is something that I did to survive. That to me is code switching.
So it's a survival method.
Survival, yes.
Go ahead.
So I think to your question about black male identity and what is our expectation of black male identity, I think it's all in your own experience of how you've been raised as a black male. So, I was fortunate enough to grow up in a two-parent household and have a father that was very, active in my life, and he groomed me to be essentially who I am. However, I learned who I am from the W.B. Du Bois or Booker T. Washingtons or Huey P. Newtons. I studied those type of people. If I grew up in an environment where the people that I looked up to or the influencers were maybe rappers or maybe were drug dealers, then maybe it's a different experience on what you view as black male identity. I saw black male identity through the lens of my father, so now I expect different things in a relationship. I saw black male identity through the people that I studied, you know, so I expect more in terms of my education or how I do speak to people in terms of what I looked at and, oh, he speaks like that, and they moved the whole crowd. So it's like, I think it's all based upon your experience. You know, it's not, you know, yes, it has to do with some of the propaganda of what we see, but I saw the same things that most people saw on television and on cartoons and on all these different things, and I turned out pretty all right. So I think, to what you were saying earlier, where it breaks down the mental, I think it elevated me because I do believe that I don't have to go to an Ivy League school to be an Ivy League student. I don't have to be white to be a scholar. I don't have to be in those circles or code switch because I can be the best of the best and still compete with my counterparts that are white. So that's how I look at it. I feel like I have a higher expectation of black males because I've experienced a high expectation of black males.
Oh, shit.
Say that again.
On her behalf.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
I said, according to you, it doesn't matter if black males are in this space. It can be anybody as long as they can do the job, because it doesn't matter what they look like. So why do we even need to be trying to take part and be in spaces full of people who don't look like us? Why is that even necessary? Why is it important to do that if it doesn't matter as long as the person can do the job?
I'm gonna be honest, y'all. My blood was boiling. How can you, as a black man, sit here and say to my face and a bunch of other people's faces that it doesn't matter what color someone is as long as they can do the job? So why are you just like, are you assuming that other people can't do the job and that's why spaces aren't diverse? Are you saying that different experiences don't matter? It just didn't make sense. It didn't make sense.
I have a question.
So are you gonna answer my question or not?
Though I'm appreciating this discussion, I do have a question that we wanted to ask the last time. I don't think you understood the question. Did you understand the question?
Can you just reiterate it? So, or what you saying is that
Earlier on, you were saying it doesn't matter what race you are. It doesn't matter, like nobody cares what you look like. Nobody cares what your background is. They care what you can do for them, right? Which, that's cool. I can agree with that. But you saying that it does not matter what you bring to the table in terms of your background as long as someone can do the job. So my question to you is, why does it matter to have diverse groups of people in spaces of business, in spaces of politics, if it does not matter as long as they can do the job as the person hiring says or sees fit?
That's a great question and comment, I guess. The whole diversity push came along in business because companies were sued because they didn't have enough of another culture. I'm very aware of cultural competency because in the school that I'm affiliated with, there's 60% Indian, we have another 30% of black, so percentage-wise it's very diverse. But I do believe that everyone does bring a different diverse opinion, diverse way of doing things, diverse culture of doing things. However, you can bring all this diversity to the table. You can bring all this, the way that you do things, you're, being eclectic, being creative. But at the end of everything, if you're not performing, if you don't have substance, you can be very confident but have no substance behind it. So at the end of the day, yes, I love all people and I would hire all people, but it comes to a certain level when you're sitting in a different seat that you still have to have all of these people be able to perform at a high level.
I think the assumption should be made that if you're in that space and you're able to perform at that high level. I think what I'm saying is that it does matter to have diverse groups of people inside of those spaces. It doesn't just matter that you can perform. If it's a monogamous environment, you're not going to perform to the best of your abilities. That's been statistically proven.
I'm gonna let you know. we're gonna keep going. Because I feel like...
I'm trying to understand what you're saying.
So what I'm saying is
because I'm not sure if I don't think that
we are not going to continue this.
So I am answering Dasha's question, one. And I do believe as a business owner, it is my responsibility to be able to hire people that can overperform, not underperform. Whether you're black, white, green, or orange, it's my responsibility as a business owner that is creating solutions to problems, that is building bridges, that is filling gaps within our society, to be able to hire people or to be able to partner with people that can get a job done. Now, do I look for people that look like me? Yes. And do I have the platform to be able to create opportunities for people that look like me? Yes. But if I continue to hire people that are underperforming, who are the people that are truly suffering? It's those people, those students that are being undereducated. It's those people in gentrified areas that are uneducated to why their area is getting gentrified or going through gentrification. It is the people that are truly suffering if these problems are not being solved. So yes, I love to hire people that look like me. I would love to do that every day. But is it the reality? No. My responsibility is to be able to solve the problems that we're facing today, to be able to create and close these gaps and be able to create bridges for people to succeed. Does it matter what you look like? No.
Yeah, so I have a question. Give me the mic.
You gotta tell me.
Dr. Ashton. So, I like that healthy dialogue between black men and black women, which leads me to my next question. Have black men let black women down?
That's a follow-up question. Can you go into more detail about what you mean by down?
Okay.
I feel like as a woman, I don't need that.
Okay, so do black men take up for black women? Have black men given up on black love? What is black love? Do black men in the what does black men in the household look like in 2018? Because Kyle said that he was so fortunate to grow up in a two-parent household, but I know people that felt like they were very unfortunate to grow up in a two-parent household. And that's something that, like, my parents weren't together, but that's something that I wanted until I spoke to people who did grow up in a two-parent household and their fathers were there but absent, completely not there. So what does that look like? Have black men let go of loving black women? Do they even want to love and be loved by black women? In any capacity, not just romantically. That'd be good.
I think that I would think as a whole, we've been led to believe that as a whole, like just taking all black men into consideration, that as a whole, that yes, we have let all black women down. Like, we don't want to love black women, we don't want to respect black women, we don't want to build households, we don't want to be there, be present in whatever way, shape, or form that looks like. I think if you look at individuals, I think that's where you'll find the true answer. You know what I mean? I think if you look at, like you said before, like you can grow up in a two-parent household, but what, like, the father figure or the mother figure, whoever, is absent, like mentally, physically, whatever. So it's pretty much the same. Like you're missing a piece. But also where that may be lacking, there are plenty of black men that are willing and able to step in some form of capacity, like mentorship or whatever, to fill that role. So I think it's more so we'd be led to believe that as a whole, and statistically, if we're looking at statistics, though, I'm not going to quote statistics because I don't know.
No,
I don't know. I don't want to quote something wrong. But I would say just from my personal experience, just from looking at the community that I grew up in and knowing people and being in situations where people have fathers, don't have fathers, or are missing that piece, there have been more than enough black men to step in and fill those roles and help those individuals move forward.
More than enough.
Yeah,
that's how I'm going to speak on my experience. So.
It's more for me, and if we're speaking in terms of fathers, I guess it's no one else's responsibility to do anything for you. It's no one else's responsibility. Kids don't ask to be here at all. So it's no one else's job to do the job of someone else because they just didn't feel like it. so though there are figures there, I think, I mean, for me, like my dad was in my life. My dad was there. I know who my dad is, but my stepdad raised me, essentially. And so with that, I grew up with the mentality of whatever you won't do, somebody else will. Period. Point blank. That's just what I was taught by watching people. But I feel like, even with that being said, when my mom and my stepdad got divorced and he got a girlfriend, I wasn't allowed to always come to his house because I was not his biological daughter. So there are different levels to the role that people play in people's lives. So I just feel like, yes, though there are mentors out there, yeah, you can take a boy to football camp and he can have those mentors there. Whenever you get back home and that's still not being reciprocated at home, then what's the end result? You know what I mean?
So I think I get it, but I think from a black male standpoint, I think that with evolution things change.
Yeah.
And I think that maybe if we say in 2018 black men letting women down, I think if we look back 20 years ago, have they been letting people down? I think as everybody evolved, everybody is starting to take ownership of their own shit, their own body. And so does that mean that I can choose to not be here? But also we have to look at what is the black woman doing to make him make those decisions. Not saying that it's right, I'm not saying that it's right, but I'm saying that every consequence has a reaction. So when you use my child against me and say, hey, oh, because I'm not gonna be with you, you're not gonna allow me to, not saying that it happened in your house. I'm not saying like that, but I'm saying,
I'll take up from the T's house.
I'm saying, no, I'm not saying.
To a neighborhood where my dad lived and I could look out my back door and my dad would not invite me over for dinner. I could look out and see my dad grilling.
But I'm not saying it from a personal standpoint.
Yeah,
I'm saying as evolution occurs, things happen. Now, I remember 20 years ago, people would say, I'm staying in my marriage because of my children. I'm staying because I said these vows. We tell people, oh, be independent, be strong, go do this, go forth, get educated. But then you say, no, you better stay in that house because you ain't supposed to leave. How do you do that? Like, you can't tell somebody to be a person and then say, no, get back in line, boy. Like, that's like mental slavery again.
That person chose to marry and have children. Nobody made that person. Listen, if you made vows, you made promises that you're gonna stay with this person, I don't wanna hear some shit, it's been 20 years and I wanna be an individual.
But that's their opinion, that's their option.
I'm not saying it's not an option. I mean, you know, I'm separated myself and I'm the one that left, okay? But
was you wrong for leaving? You see what I'm saying? A man could argue and say a black woman has let me down because she chose to leave.
He could say that. I just have a problem with the idea that you have to tell somebody they got to stay somewhere because, you know, like as if they didn't have a choice when they did have a choice to begin with. They had a choice at the beginning, and you know, I don't know how personal I want to get. Let's just say, listen, if you're a man and you're making a promise to a woman, don't make the promise if you know you can't keep it. That's I'm gonna leave it.
But that is person to person,
right?
Not just man to woman. Don't and though people change and things change, don't say that you're gonna do something and not do it.
Right.
That's just.
So back to the question: Have black men let women down? We feel like they all just they all full of shit. We just let them.
And I feel like the black men are really not speaking up for.
And I think that's a big part of what's going on in the world.
Yeah, black men are not speaking up. After Chantel Cohen.
Okay, so here's me, in my perspective. I feel like, yes, black men have let black women down, but black men have been let down themselves by themselves. A lot of times, if you go back in history, black men had to sit there and watch things happen to their wives with their hands tied, sometimes with their hands not tied. So I think it's a conversation of having a little bit more compassion and respect towards the person and not to take away from people that make promises that they can't keep. You know, I have experienced that, you know, not in a marriage, but in a father relationship as well, you know. Well, you know the typical, I'm coming and then things don't, people don't come, things like that. So, but I think on a psychological level, like I was saying earlier about the psyche, the mental state, if you don't know yourself as a black man, how are you going to be a black father? How are you going to be a black husband? How are you going to be a black friend to another black man, gay, straight, whatever? So I think the conversation, we kind of got to go in reverse a little bit, that black men have let themselves down. They haven't forgiven themselves, and therefore, when they go and they want to be, the best man that they can be, and they want to go and commit to a woman, a lot of the times, and I'm not giving excuses here, because I hold men accountable too. You say you're going to do something good, period. But I do have compassion of the mental state. A lot of black men, be honest, are not taking care of their mental health. You say therapy to a black man, and he's just like, I'm not paying for a friend, or I'm not telling someone my business, or, I don't need that. I have to worry about feeding kids. Not all men, because I see the way you looking at me, guys. Not all men, some. And I think we have to talk about the mental state before we can talk about others.
In terms of this conversation, I was kind of silent at the table this time. I didn't really agree with the premise of where I felt like the conversation was going as far as black men letting black women down. In terms of, that's just too broad of a brush to paint. I know plenty of black couples, and I know plenty of black men that adore, love, and cherish and value their women, black women, and I've come up where, and I'm not saying that these concerns aren't valid, but I didn't want to participate in a conversation that I felt like was painting such a broad brush across black men. Me personally, I truly love and cherish black women. That's all I've ever done my whole life. Every woman in my life has always been black, and will continue to be black. So that's why I kind of chose to abstain. And at the time, I felt like jumping in, may not have been the wisest decision.
It's just a couple of things I was thinking about over here. One of which I don't want to blow up the entire topic because I was extremely passionate last time we talked about it. I reached out to a lot of folks, but I had a conversation with someone actually from this group that changed my perspective a little bit on how I assess black male identity, because I kept saying female, and she clarified for me that female could be any animal, it could be anything. It's not necessarily a person. So then I started to think about, we have this whole black male identity pushed on us. Then I thought about the male part. No one just calls guys males, but we are in this sense. So that could be anything. So then I started to think, with the female, the dehumanization of a female by calling her a female. Then I started thinking about that as a male. Then it's a black male. Then I started thinking, what other ethnicity has to be defined by some sort of identity? No one else talks about white male identity, Latin male identity. We're the only ones that get thrown into a category of having to fit into this form of identity, which I think is one of the roots of the entire problem and the discussion. Although I did go hard on it last time, my perspective has changed. That black male identity, that's another thing. That's a little more bullshit for them to throw up and let us get distracted about when it doesn't exist, really.
A thing that limits us as black people in general is historically, we have had these ideas of us and images of us thrown and pushed upon us, right? Like these very limiting ideas of us. Like we are grand, boundless people, but we have been put in boxes of who we're expected to be. So that's been put on us, right? But now at this moment, I feel like a lot of it is what we're putting on ourselves. These ideas that we have, black male identity, how can we even fully discuss that without overgeneralizing who a black man is supposed to be? And Cole, you made an excellent point. No one else is really talking about someone else's identity, especially black men and black women. That is so limiting, and we do it to ourselves. I'll give an example of on Facebook, for example. There are a lot of black people I know on Facebook who their whole feed is black struggle, black plight, black this, black that. And I understand that. There's nothing wrong with that. But the problem that I have with that is, who are you as a person? Why aren't you talking about something that pertains to books that you enjoy reading, or food that you know what I mean? How you're trying to grow as far as what your diet is. All you do is talk about being black. You're limiting yourself.
And that egoist idea, that it really bounds us, and it's another thing that keeps us in chains. That's truly what I believe and what I feel.
So as we matriculate through that, let's throw some different situations on the table. What happens when we have our black male who doesn't fit that black male identity of what society thinks he should look like? He's not the biggest, strongest person. He's a little weaker or a little less outspoken. He is a little more nerdy, so to speak. How does that look like in our eyes? Because I know we want him to be so strong and provide for the family and go out and change our tires and stuff, but what does that look like?
I think that goes back to the code switching thing, because when I was a kid and I came back to this country, you know, not speaking about black people or black men, but when I came back to this country, I wasn't black enough. And what does that even mean? And that ties into what Colton was saying about this black male identity thing. This whole thing, it's what I love about 2018, is that it's becoming less and less of a thing to have these rigid lines about what it means to be black or what it means to be a man or a woman or whatever. Like, that stuff needs to go away, and I'm starting to see where those walls are starting to come down. And so that we don't have to, a man has to be this, and a woman has to be that, and a black person needs to look like this.
I was just kind of thinking about, you know, why does that black man have to have one identity? And to your question earlier, I think the original question you asked, Tony, was, have black men let black women down, or let women down, or something like that? And I kind of thought that was like a really loaded question. I was like, why are we having to defend ourselves in this moment? It's almost like by asking the question, we're already guilty.
Yeah.
Which I thought was kind of strange. That's a whole nother road. But one thing I wanted to add was, I think that people don't realize that being a black male in today's society is a performance. It really is. Like, I think Norma brought up the point about, you know, kids being a little bit more nerdy. When I was in school, I was a nerd. Oh yeah, all the way. And I remember distinctly in my 6th grade class, my teacher asked a question. It was one of the first days of class, and I raised my hand, answered the question, and after I answered the question, the kids in the class were looking at me like, why are you talking like that? Why you sound like that? Like da-da-da-da-da-da, right? And it got to the point where I was like arguing with these kids on the side or whatever. And like, these are all my black and brown people I love to death. And they were like criticized to the point where I like got up and cried. Just hold it in. You can't cry from people, right? I had to hold it in, but I had to excuse myself in class, went to the bathroom. And I remember that just like stinging. And like, it made me feel less black. It's like I couldn't be myself. I couldn't like, and what I hope to challenge all of you and maybe your future children, because y'all seem pretty sure of yourself, black men, y'all seem pretty sure of yourself in this room. But to whenever you interact with young folks, to let them know that like performing well in the boardroom, to doing well in school, that is a black thing. I'm so confused at when and why performing well in school became not a black thing and not a black male thing. I don't really understand why that can't be a black thing. Why communicating effectively is not a black thing. That's a black thing to me. I know a whole bunch of effective communicators. There's a whole bunch of effective communicators in this room. And it doesn't take away from whether you're black or for the people or whatever. Like, there's so many different versions of black people. I think people look at like, there's this one prophetic thing my professor told me, was that when we look back at slavery, people look at black folk during slavery period, like during that time period, as like, just like heroes, just unbelievably strong folks. Those are regular people. Those were like regular people trying to deal with today's time, and the point I'm trying to make is that I'm getting a little off topic. I'm getting so passionate about this, but the point I'm trying to make is that what black people are and who we are is who we determine ourselves to be. That's really the point I'm trying to make here, and I hope that people can get behind that, because I know we're discussing black identity, what we're supposed to be like, but I challenge everybody in here, challenge when you talk to young folks, that you help them understand that you are who you want to be. There is no identity you have to be. There's no way you have to speak. Like, you can be great exactly how you are. This is kind of the point I want to make. So, I got a lot of topic there.
And as I am being great in who I am, I will say this was a great discussion at the table tonight. And I want to thank you guys for joining us at this table. And thank you guys for watching as well. And as always, keep in mind and remember, guys, we love each and every one of you. And just know that these discussions is really opinions and how we feel. And we really want you guys to have the same discussions with your people, because the forum we have here is the forum you have home. Leave comments, leave discussions, let us know, like, share, post, comment, and do all of those things. Tony?
I'm always ready. No, I just want to thank you guys for hanging out with us again. I'm so excited for the conversation that we had tonight. Like Norman said, these things are healthy. Keep these conversations going. Understand that it starts with our youth. Like Anthony says, we have the power to change the world. So until next time.
I'm saving Sasha Fierce for when I'm married. Like, I'm not bringing that full side of myself out until...
I have been raped. And I have physically told somebody no, and it didn't stop.
Definitely need to do that part. But with the telling me about your sexual past, I actually don't want to know. Whether it was 3 people you slept with or it was 30, it makes no never mind to me, because as soon as you hug somebody and I see it's that extra little embrace, now my mind is rolling like, was that the dude she messed with?
Was you one of the 300?
So I